All right, we are live. Welcome to the podcast. Greetings from the fifth dimension. How's it going today, Paul DeVito?
It's going good, man. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to chat and get some, a lot of stuff going on right now, it seems like, so.
Yeah, it's a weird time. And one of the things I like to do, like when I start these off, is talk about how we met. And normally I kind of like breeze through that part, but like I feel like there's a really good story there that I kind of want to touch on. And I don't even know how like aware of it you are, you know? Like you basically created a chain reaction. Do you know that?
No, so explain. Let's hear it.
So we first met, I believe it was late fall of 2011. I think that's correct, at Penn State. And I guess you were previously part of the NECA student chapter, National Electrical Contractors Association, and participated in the Green Energy Challenge competition. And I don't know if you had already graduated or what your exact situation, or if you're on co-op. I kind of forget what your deal was, but you came and kind of had like the first recruiting meeting for that Green Energy Challenge competition and the NECA student chapter. And I showed up because A, I was interested in that sort of thing. B, there was free pizza. So like, how are you going to turn that down? You know? And it seemed like exactly what I wanted to do, getting into energy efficiency, planning renewable energy projects, the whole deal,
Yeah.
So I think that was late fall of 2011. And then we had like our first real meeting there in January of 2012, like coming back from winter break. And I'm pretty sure we met like in Irving's Bistro in the basement.
Yeah.
That was like our first like real meeting, and we kind of had like a little bit of a ragtag group there. There was only like a handful of us, and so what was your deal at the time? You had graduated already, right? But you were working somewhere nearby, or what was going on with that?
Oh yeah. So I had picked up I gotten involved in the Green Energy Challenge, like NECA, through that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was coming around for like the next year, and everybody had graduated, so they asked me to lead the club, and I was just like, I don't even know, I'm a business major, I'm not electrical or so I tried to throw together like a recruiting meeting and get people together to just like be able to do this project. And at that point I had graduated. I was in Harrisburg in December of 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge was coming up, and they were asking me to help to kind of organize some of that. And and I really just wanted to keep it moving because it's like a cool project. And there's also the trip to Honduras that we would do.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just some other good stuff there. But I was already graduated at that point, and just these were my I haven't been back to Penn State forever, man. Like, but
So you kind of started a chain reaction there by like by doing that, going through the recruiting process and like bringing me into the fold. I got super excited about the project, and I basically like kind of took on a leadership role there and basically used my ESW, Engineers for a Sustainable World, leadership experience in my office that I had there to like lead the team and have kind of a base of operations and like run everything out of that office, And that first year was kind of tough. Like we didn't really know what we were doing. Like, Rob Light, bless his soul, like he wasn't really super involved in like helping us out. So it was kind of like figuring it out as we went there, But it was great because we ended up not doing great in the competition, but it ended up leading to me getting connected with OPP, Penn State's Office of Physical Plant, and getting an internship. Mike Prinke, and he's great. Like working with him was awesome. Like I've had a number of bosses and supervisors just over the years, but like nobody's ever like sat down with me and like explained things to me like he did, So it was great.
With such patience.
Yeah. And he was like excited to like do that, and it was great working with him and for him and all that, And not only did that lead into that internship, but when we went to the NECA convention out in Las Vegas, and I think that would have been like fall of 2012 now, to like see the other teams present their projects and like learn a little bit and like try to, figure out how we can get it into that top tier. I ended up connecting like through a speed interviewing session with the company that ended up hiring me. I sat down with this first company in the speed interviewing session that was like for students, and it was like whatever, nothing crazy. And then the next one I sat down with Angie and Ryan Wood, who were like she was like the HR director and he was like the director of marketing or something at Electric, and like hit it off with them. Like they like blew the whistle, like rang the bell to like change seats, and I like ignored it altogether and like stayed and sat and talked to them. And it was great. I had a great conversation, and ended up like they invited me to meet the president of their company the next day, which was Jim Rank, and like hit it off with him. And then they invited me out for an interview around Thanksgiving of that year, and then they extended me an offer like before Christmas. So like that alone is like a huge chain reaction, but we're only half a chain reaction. There's more, because the next year I recruited a team, or it wasn't even the next year. I think it was that same semester, or even like the spring semester. I like put a team together for the next round of Green Energy Challenge. And this time we like knew what we were doing, because I like worked at OPP, and like I understood like energy calculations a lot better, and like financials, and put a team together, and like I had more experience with leading ESW as well. So like we put like a really solid team together, had like multiple people on different parts of the project and stuff, and like had a lot of fun putting it all together, and like made a great group of friends out of the deal,
Yeah. That sounds awesome.
Fast forward a little bit, like we ended up placing in the top 3 and getting to go to DC to present the project, and really well. And I think we were only like a couple points shy of getting first place. Like we got second, and we kind of were bummed out, but
What would you guys end up doing for that one, the DC one?
It was a parking garage. I think it was the Allen Street parking garage.
Okay.
And we did like a full proposal to put LED lighting and electric vehicle charging stations and solar and the whole deal,
Yeah.
And it ended up being pretty solid. And those people who like I recruited to be on part of that team, like they all got like really good jobs doing like really cool things. So like it started a really great chain reaction there. So
it's just what it all comes down to, just the free cheese pizza on a Wednesday night.
Yeah. You can't underestimate that,
Yeah.
And
if
we weren't in quarantine right now, I'd try to shake your hand and buy you a beer and properly thank you, because I'm not sure if I ever have. I think I've said a couple things, but I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to do it in person.
Well, yeah, man, I'm happy that it turned out to be such a beneficial, and you know what, really, like, it's you taking that step in the get go and having that interest and following your interest, and really, so yeah. But yeah, it's cool. It's a cool story.
And it was cool too when we did go to DC. I had been living in Michigan, but I made the trip out there to see the team present, because I had already graduated, but like I still kind of like led the team and led the project, and I wanted to see them present. And my uncle lived in Maryland and like worked in DC, so I invited him to like come down and like see me and hang out with me for a little bit while I was down there, And I kind of had the feeling that like my mom was going to show up too. Like I could just kind of sense that like she was going to try and surprise me, So I was kind of on the game, So he meets me there at the conference hall or whatever, and he's like, "Hey, like I got to come show you something. Come outside with me." I was like, "Hey, I know what this is. Like I know what's going on here, And sure enough, like my mom's outside, right? So I like walked outside and I see
you already knew.
Yeah. But like not only was she there, but there was like 12 of my family members were there too. Like and like they all had like the secret plan they called like Operation Falcon to like surprise me at the NECA convention and like come see us present and the whole deal. So it was like so cool. To have like my family there and like all my friends there that were part of that team and like the project. And like the only way it could have ended better is we got first place and they put me on their shoulders and saying we are the champions.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good result. That's that was, and that, like, I kind of stumbled on that club too, like just randomly, and it was really small when I first got in, but I was like, hey, this sounds like they're doing cool stuff. So, and they kind of had like multi departments supporting them, so they had like some resources too through NECA, and yeah, it was just like a good organization.
Yeah. And they threw a hell of a party too. Both of those NECA conventions I went to, they throw down.
Yeah, dude, that was like the first time I ever had like a really good steak. It was like one of those little tiny ones,
Yeah, they're like
one of those conventions.
Yeah,
I was like, dang, this is like a really good steak. It's like butter.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And it was tough for that first convention I went to in Vegas. I was like really sick. So I'm like there, you know, you're in Vegas, you should be trying to have a good time or whatever. I was sick. I was under the weather like the whole time. So I didn't have like a single drink while I was there or like anything, you know.
Hard
But
to
I was
stay
also
out.
really determined to like network because I'm like, this is my chance to like network, like find a job because I wasn't trying to be like one of those people that, you know, end up in a career that's not what they went to school for or settling for something, you know. I was really
You're hyper focused in the college years, man. Like I was the same way. Like
yeah, so and I did it too. Like I was there, I was hustling it, you know. I was talking to everybody and giving them the pitch about what we were doing and that I was looking for jobs. And luckily I connected with those folks at J Rank Electric, and it was awesome for them to kind of give me a chance out of school. And it's like, so well done, sir. Thank you.
yeah.
Tip of the cap to you.
Yeah, likewise, man. Yeah, it's funny how like, you know, priorities and just like just what you value in life changes over time. You know, like, you know, for like in my college years, you know, I was just like, I want to get like a really good job and I want to build something that's going to change everything, you know, like build something that'll make an impact on people's lives.
Yeah.
And then like after college, it was more like, all right, I'm just gonna get a good job and I want to just get like up the ladder in the job. And then it was like, I don't really know what I want anymore, but you know, like until I figure it out, I'm just gonna keep doing something, you know. But
yeah. So what have you been doing? It's been like 7 years or something, 6 or 8 years or something since I've seen you. So what have you been up to?
yeah, so I ended up getting a job. Actually, it was through TE Connectivity. So again, a connection through Nika. I got my first internship there. You know, they make a bunch of connectors. So we had like one of their product managers come and rep the company at one of our like meetings.
Yeah.
And yeah, he got me in for an interview, and you know, I hit it off with the manager, got an interview there, and started working there like back in 2011, December to January. So yeah, I was like doing cost accounting there. So pretty boring job, not what I was expecting, not what I was like thrilled about. But it was a job. And it was in Harrisburg, so it was like between Penn State and Philadelphia.
Which that's where you're from.
Yeah, so grew up in Philadelphia. And then I worked there for a few years, and I was, you know, I was like really young and just like I just wanted to work. I wanted to be an expat, you know, like I wanted to go work internationally somewhere. I wanted that experience, you know.
Yeah.
So I was really like pushing for that, and you know, putting in extra hours and just like pushing. That's what I want to do next, you know. And I ended up getting an opportunity. Like they offered me something in North Carolina or California. So I was like, let me go check out California. Like I know what North Carolina is like. Let me go see California. And they flew me out here. You know, they had just bought a company out here, and they were doing like a system upgrade. You know, so they needed some help with that. So I ended up, you know, flying out here and get off the plane, and you know, like the weather is like. It's just like you walk from inside to outside, and it's like the same, but just like sunny. Yeah, it's like feels the same, you know, but it's just sunny.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like that really blew me away, and I was like, this will never get old.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like I've been in California now for like 7 years.
What part of California are you in?
Oceanside, in the Southern California near San Diego. Yeah, so. Yeah, I worked for them for like 5 years total, and then I started working for a company that did satellite communications. They're called Viasat. It's kind of like GoGo. Yeah, Viasat. So it's a big. So they started off as a big like government contractor making these radios, these handheld satellite radios. But they've expanded, and now they have a commercial business, and they have to do like maritime, commercial air. So like, you know, like you see on a plane, it'll have like this little like bump on the top. It's like a radome. It's called a radome. Yeah. And it's just so it like deflects the chickens or whatever else over the hardware on the top of the plane. And it's just like a little antenna and battery supply or power supply. But that's for like the Wi-Fi on the plane. So this company did that, and I was doing like all the R&D kind of development project spend type budgets and doing that for a while. And now I work for, and then I did a short stint. I had like, and then I got laid off at that company. So I was laid off there back in August this past year. And that was for about 3 months. I was without a job, and then I got a contractor gig, like a temp gig with a healthcare staffing company. And this was like leading up to all this coronavirus stuff, you know? So like, just like didn't realize it at the time, like this healthcare staffing company probably got really busy after I left because I ended up taking another job since then. But I was working there for a couple months, just in their corporate department, doing finances, and now I work at a Windows manufacturing company. So I manage like a couple of manufacturing plants down here in Oceanside. Nice.
That's awesome. I was in California, Southern California, for like almost 3 years. I'm surprised I didn't put 2 and 2 together and try to connect.
Oh, really?
You know?
Where at?
I was in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And now I'm in the process of like trying to get back out there, maybe looking at job opportunities and trying to get back into the solar industry and storage and electric vehicles and all that stuff. And it's kind of an odd time right now with the coronavirus thing, but that's one of the top areas I'd like to get back to, either San Diego or LA or somewhere there in SoCal, because I really enjoyed it there. And like you said, it's like never gets old, you know, like the beautiful weather and the stuff to do. And
yeah, I'm happy to pass you any referrals or whatever, man. Like, let me know if there's anything that you're interested in, or so I worked at TE Connect. So TE Connectivity, they're actually closing down shop out here, but Viasat's a pretty big one. They're doing mostly like communication equipment. But there are a bunch of solar companies and like some just like smaller type contractor business type deals too. Where, you know, you could just be more of a principal or, you know, something more substantial, like in a smaller company. But there's also like some big like technology companies. Like, I don't know if you remember Brian Baldwin. Remember him?
No, I don't.
Or no, Brian McLaughlin.
Yeah, I think so.
He was like a year ahead of us.
Yeah.
And so he's up, I think, in like San Francisco, and he was doing some battery technology stuff for a while. Now I think he's doing like the delivery robots, you know? So he's always working on some kind of cool something like that. But yeah, he might be a good person to.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about some networking connections that we can make and see if you can start another chain reaction for me, you know?
Yeah. No, I think, you know, I'm pretty hopeful, at least for long term. You know, the economy, I think, is we go through a recession every now and then, and, you know, we're hitting it right now. And, you know, it makes total sense, you know, why we're in it. You know, like market got a little bit too excited and then something bad happened. So here we are. Yeah. But, you know, I feel like we're on the brink of like a lot of breakthroughs, a lot of different stuff, you know, and it's really going to change a lot. So
I think this whole thing has exposed some of the flaws within the system, and also like quickened some of the things that were kind of being delayed, like letting people work from home and figuring out how to do online and all these things that like maybe could be doing in certain aspects and we aren't. Now we're like kind of forced to, and it's like trial by fire sort of.
Yeah. And it's great. Like the working from home, like you were saying, like, you know, there's a lot of like, I've seen a lot of like concepts on how the office of the future looks like, you know, and just like these people throwing out these ideas of like, and it looks kind of more like a library setup, and there's like a deep workspace with just like these private cubbyhole type workstations, you know, and just like kind of bizarre stuff. But now with everybody working from home, it makes a lot of sense to have an office like that, and just like all, you know, basically the essentials that you need to have in an office, a conference room. But yeah, no, it's really encouraged. Like they're talking at my work, like, oh, you know, once we get through this, are we gonna have to go back into the office? It's like, oh, we'll talk about it, because, you know, like the company sees now that there's opportunity to, you know, cut back what they're leasing in terms of office space, or you know, like the impact that we can have just by not driving. You know, like you see the pictures of LA. It's like
It cleared up a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, the pictures look amazing. You can see
Yeah.
the mountains like in the skyline behind the city. It looks awesome. Yeah. And I don't know if that's just from not driving, but it's like certainly just the social activity going down, I think is just
right. People aren't commuting, people aren't driving to the gym, people aren't driving to the beach or wherever, so it all adds up. And it's crazy too, because like thinking about like dealing with climate change and kind of having, everyone's obviously working on it. Maybe not everyone, but collectively we're working on it by doing what we're doing and increasing sustainability in whatever form that we're doing that, But we see like this pandemic kind of shows what we're actually capable of doing. Like we could ramp up these efforts a lot. People could be working from home. People don't have to drive all these places, So unfortunately, like there's such a displacement between like the consequences of things like climate change and like the present time, similar with this situation.
Yeah.
Because the consequences are like today, like if you go out, you can get sick, you can get your family sick. People are like, oh shit, I better stay home and like not do this thing, So
most people.
Yeah, not everybody. That's a good transition there. What do you think about some of these people that are out protesting in the streets in various states over the past week or so?
Oh man, it's wild. I mean, I get it. Like, I get that people are, but I think people just have like such a short sight, and are not able to look outside of their own little bubble, which is kind of sad. But like I understand that they might not just have the capacity to do that, or they just have chosen, not to. And if they've chosen not to, then like, shame on you, but like maybe they just don't understand it.
Yeah. So what is your experience with like folks across the political spectrum? Because like right now you're in SoCal, that's pretty progressive at least, but you're also in Oceanside, so some of those folks are a little, sometimes they lean a little right or whatever. But then
there's a big military base right there.
Oh yeah, so you get to deal with people like all across the spectrum, and like what's that like? And
yeah, I mean, I there's even like a good handful of my friends who are, across the spectrum, I'd say, and I don't know, like I can appreciate that they've got opinions, and like we can laugh about it and like make fun of each other for how off our views are on some stuff, but as long as it's not affecting my safety, or even if they're out on the streets, protesting and like coughing around the protests or whatever, like I don't know, man, it's out of my control. So it's something that I can't do anything about. Like realistically, I'm not going to go and change the opinions of all these people. So I've kind of just accepted it, and I try to find humor in it, because that's what keeps me going. Is like I love watching like SNL and like the satire, like South Park and stuff like that. Just make light of it.
Speaking of South Park, I think they have a new episode coming out this week, and it's all about the coronavirus thing. So that should be wild.
Yeah, nice.
They're wearing like full face like gas masks, and like Cartman was peeking down into like the bomb shelter or whatever. So they do a really good job at like holding the mirror up to society and like showing how crazy people are.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's you have to recognize it for what it is, and I don't know, you can either let it eat at you, and like even if I'm like on Facebook, I go on Facebook or something and I'm reading through like what's on Facebook. If I see something like I can't help myself sometimes, but like I just try to keep it like at least like polite and not like, but like maybe poke a joke or something, like, and then they'll poke one back, and like it'll be very obvious that like we're so on the far sides of things that like there's never going to be a middle, but it's just for fun,
And that's one of the main reasons I started this podcast, was because I wanted to help bring those sides together maybe, and like have conversations with folks on different sides and try to find common ground and try to find the humor in things too. And like, just kind of go through that process,
I think this is certainly like the media to do that is just like a platform where you're communicating with people and people can watch it, you know? So like, I respect that what you're doing is I think it's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
And,
fun, you know, it's
yeah,
a good excuse to connect with people and talk with people. And it's one of my favorite things to do. So
yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. I've watched like a couple of the earlier ones. I think you posted up at one point, and I was like, oh, yeah, check this out.
Yeah.
I think I got like an hour into it, and I was just like, I don't even know where they're going with this, but like, I'm just like at capacity now, so I'm just gonna take.
You remember what we were talking about? Or like,
I want to say, I think it was one of the earlier ones where we were talking about like kind of like a government structure where it's more like central or kind of unified, like a more yeah.
I think it was maybe we were talking about either like the new Senate thing, or were we talking about the
yeah, the new Senate, yeah,
mm-hmm.
and a way for voting where it's like
basically like vertically like stacked. So like you have to be in the category, prove competency in any given category in order to vote in that category.
Yeah, yeah, you know, that's a big problem, you know, like. Because, you know, everybody goes out and votes and they just vote Republican or Democrat or, you know, whatever, just because. And I bet 50% of the people that are Republican are just like trying to save the most money, you know, like that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
It's like it's so simple, but it's so like, you know.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I got into this too, is because it's not simple. Things are actually like really complicated and layered and multidimensional, and like, and there's cumulative truth to everything. So like, yeah, like if you vote only for like what helps me the most as an individual, well then you're completely lacking like the societal impacts of your decision.
Yeah, but nobody's gonna understand that.
Like if you're only voting for like the societal impacts and like no focus on like how it impacts me as an individual, that's a problem too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like I feel that a lot of the things that Trump has done during this, you know, it's all been stuff that actually like props up the economy but it's for a very short term, you know, it's like, it might be great today because, you know, like we don't have, you know, like they cut the taxes for the corporate, you know, like,
yeah,
like, okay, corporate makes more money, but how does that so the government makes less money, corporate makes more money, does that money get back into a way that's gonna, you know, grow things? And is that, you know, at the end of the day, man, I don't even know, is like growth and progress something that's important to you? Or, you know, like, do you feel like we've got everything that we needed to be happy and to just, you know, like just be content with as it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that's a big question of mine that I kind of come up to a lot is, you know, progress is great, but is it necessary?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That reminds me of something I learned this past weekend. I went to ESW, Engineers for Sustainable World. They had a digital conference, and there was a number of sessions all day, but the one I think was like I found most interesting was this guy talking about kind of the economy as like a super organism, and I was like, all right. I was like, now you already got me intrigued with just the title. But he kind of made the comparison of like a mouse, for example, or like a small rodent, and like the efficiency that they run on, like number of heartbeats and like their overall metabolism, you know, basically measuring it as like, I guess you could call it like joules per kilogram of body mass, you know?
Okay.
And then it doesn't scale like linearly.
Yeah.
So like an elephant has like a lot slower metabolism and like a lot fewer heartbeats. And like what he kind of argued is like that's like a natural phenomenon across nature, that as like you increase in size, you have to also increase in efficiency or else you won't survive, you know? And he showed us some graphs too of like GDP and like relative to energy use over time. And it was kind of like a very similar trend, like from like post World War II to about 1970, it was like linear. Like every extra energy that we consumed led to one extra unit of GDP, you know?
Yeah.
But when like the energy crisis, the oil crisis of the 1970s hit, it kind of changed the mindset a little bit to like build efficiency into the system too.
Mhm.
So now like 1 unit of extra energy actually yields like more than 1 unit of GDP growth, you know?
Yeah. Right.
And, yeah, so kind of to like wrap it up, like we can't just like grow infinitely at the same way that we're growing. Like growth is important, but there's also like limits to it, you know, and we have to do it in a way that's sustainable. You know, you can't just increase forever and burn more energy forever. You know,
You have to
find
you have to
balance.
look for and work on like improving efficiencies and stuff like that. And I guess, like it's almost in a sense that progress is necessary to sustain like civilization, because civilization is always going to grow, over time. So like as you're having more and more people, you're having to support like a bigger. So it's almost So at the end of the day, we have to progress, otherwise we'll die.
Exactly.
Basically. Yeah, no, that's an interesting. I don't know if you've seen the price of oil, but it's
tanked, right?
Yeah, it tanked recently, and
yeah, they can't even handle it, basically.
Yeah, like the future contracts on the oil went turned negative. So
wow, has that ever happened before?
No, it's never happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like there was like this big war between Saudi Arabia and Russia, and they're like, I'm not going to stop producing, and they basically said they're going to produce as much as they want, no matter how much, no matter what. They just produce it. They just flood the market because they got so much oil, so they just flood it with all this oil. Price goes down.
Yeah.
And then and now just recently we're seeing this coronavirus, of just people distancing and driving less, so the demand for oil is down.
Way down.
And that just hit. So like there was a price war, and that kind of price went down, did that thing, and then now it's like, oh, now we don't have any demand. So now we got an oversupply, and now we got a under demand. and that flipped the futures negative. But
man,
I don't know if you're like I don't know if there's certain like stocks that you can buy that typically will have like pretty solid performance, like cigarette stocks and like alcohol stocks, stuff like that, like sin stocks. So I don't know if oil falls into that category for you, but if not, then it might be a great time to buy it, because there's only so much of it. So it's like we're in this supply glut and demand squeeze. So it's like the perfect storm to drive the price as low as we'll ever see it. So
yeah, you mentioned when we exchanged a couple messages there that you have some interest and experience with the stock market. So like, can you talk a little bit about that? Like how you got into it, like what your involvement with it's been, and like, your successes or failures with it in general?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think most people probably stand the best chance just investing in like a market, like the Dow Jones or something like that, or even like there's even like mutual funds and like indexes and stuff like that you can do. And I always advise using like the best tax strategy that you can do. So like there's like an IRA where there's tax benefits there, like doing that first, and then if you got access to a 401k, that's also a tax benefit there, doing that next, whatever. But I started getting in when I was first started working, and I started making like some extra money. I was looking at like, just individual stocks, like companies like Google and Apple,
right,
and stuff like that. And, I was really just looking at like, how do you value, like, why is this company, more valuable than this company? And, you can look and see what their earnings are, like at the end of the day or the end of the month or the quarter, they'll have earned a certain amount of money, and that amount of earnings will be based off of how much they sold and, all their costs, and whether they're reinvesting it. Like Amazon, they don't earn a lot of money, they just reinvest it all. So their earnings is always going to be like almost zero. And that means they're going to pay almost no taxes. And a lot of people get upset about that.
They do.
Yeah. But
it's because they're reinvesting everything, you're saying. So like instead of showing a profit, they take that what would be profit and just reinvest back into like R&D or additional infrastructure or a new plant, distribution plant or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yep. So all their money's going right back into the company, and the shareholders like it because they're creating value from that, and over time, like it's growing the company, right? Mm-hmm. And you can look and see like what are the earnings as compared to the price of the stock, and usually like that's like a pretty good one. There's a bunch of different like indicator or like metrics that you can look at and compare the companies. Yeah. So that's really like I started getting into that and with stocks and just looking at like some of the bigger companies, and then at one point I found out about this company called Tesla. And they had made this like electric car, and it was Elon Musk, and he had done PayPal and Dropbox and these other companies. And they were talking about making this electric car for the mass market. And I was like, oh, like if anybody's going to do it, like it seems like this guy's got to figure it out, you know, like he's a smart guy. He's just inspiring and he's had success in the past building other things. And so I invested in that. Like at the time it was like $4,000, you know, it was a big chunk of my money like that I had saved up. But then they ended up actually producing this Model S and like rolling it out to the market, and then like going with the 3 and these other cars too. I had sold it like a long time ago. Like it's at $700 now or something, like more than that even, but I had bought it around like $30. And sold it like, I don't know, I made a decent amount of profit on it. But, you know, like very early on when I was buying and selling stocks, I would just look to get like 20%, you know? So like if I bought Google for $100 and then it went up to $120, I'd be like, all right, 20%, I'm selling, I'm out, you know, like take the risk off the table. Sure. You know, like my theory was, yeah. Mm-hmm. My theory was you can't lose if you take a gain. So I was just like trying to lock in 20% gains. But then I learned like, you know, if I would pick a stock and it had done well and it, you know, reached 20% and I sold it, a lot of times it would just keep going. So, you know, I was selling it too early. Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, you know, it's just like looking at companies that are doing things that you think are that the rest of the world is going to consume. And if they're, you know, so like Square was another one that I had gotten in on, and, you know, Jack Dorsey, you know, another good leader, visionary leader. You know, the product, the Square, you know, like everybody's using it at all the, you know, the street fairs, and, you know, I see my cleaners were using it, you know, like for their payment system. It's got a good, like, so, you know, I saw the product and I had heard people reviewing the product that, you know, were using it every day, and, you know, they liked it. So like, all right, this guy seems to have a good vision ahead for this company on where to steer it. The product that already today is good, and, you know, it's being adapted, you know, so just looking for stuff like that. And sometimes there'll be smaller companies that won't have a lot, but like if you look at, you know, if you listen to like one of their calls and you hear, you know, Jack Dorsey or Elon Musk talking about where he plans to take the company, and you know, whether or not they're actually executing on what they're saying, you know, then you can get the confidence to like throw in some money on some of these early companies, and, you know, hope that they turn out to be great companies someday. But like, you know, if you look at any of the other like Facebooks of the, like I bought Facebook even when it went public at $18, and it went up or it went down at right out of the gate. It dropped from like $18, it dropped to like $17, and I got scared, so I sold it. And then it took off for a long time, you know, like, and I was like kicking myself for like having that same gut feeling of like this Mark Zuckerberg guy, this Facebook, it was right at the time when they went public. It was right at the time when they started pushing ads on your phone in your news feed. And I was thinking, wow, these ads, like that's going to make a lot of money for them, and once people see how much money they're making off these ads, like then they're going to get some like track. And, like I bought it, it went down and I got scared. I sold it and that was it, like that. I missed my Facebook run, but like kind of like looking for opportunities like that, just like when things are kind of new and fresh and like people are just starting to see it. And, if you already know that it's something that could be good or,
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, there's a lot of technology out there today that's like still going to be fresh. And like, like the thing that Brian's doing, there's robotic cars like for the last mile delivery. That's going to be pretty big.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that.
Brian McLaughlin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that with connectivity or what was the name of that company?
I'm not sure. It's one of the bigger, I'll have to look and see. But it's like they're just like these small pods, it's not like a full size car. They're just like ones that would cruise around the neighborhood sidewalks kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's some like robotic electric platform that they're doing this on. And I don't know, you might see like Uber and Lyft and companies like that. They might already have, the technology developed and like they might already be developing these small like last mile.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting.
So what happens if like you invest in a company like that and they start doing pretty well and then they have like selling to a company like Uber?
And that's just like, well, that would be, I mean, if they're ever going to sell out the company, I think that you can only, if it's a young company that's growing and gaining traction, the price that they're going to sell for is always going to be above where they're at. So it's only going to be a good thing.
Right.
So like if you own shares of that company and they got this track record that looks like this right now, and some company is trying to buy them before they get there,
mm-hmm.
then they're going to pay a premium for that company.
Makes sense.
But if it's like
it's like bought at that rate, or you now own stock in like Uber, or how does that actually work?
Yeah, so you would probably then take shares of like Uber or whatever company that acquired it, or maybe I don't know, like it could be the deal like you have to cash out, like they're buying out the position, taking it private or something like that.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
But it depends on how the company's set up. Like it might not enable it to do that.
Right.
It could just be. But
did you get involved in investing in any cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or otherwise, or using those at all? Mm-hmm.
Nah, I can't. It's hard. I mean, like you see them go swing, like the prices swing so much, but like I just need to like, it has to be some product, like I do invest a little bit in gold, just because like I've been worried about the market. Like for the past year, I've been invested in gold, just worried that the market's taken off too much. Which I realize gold is essentially the same thing as cryptocurrency, like it's what how do you value it? It's just the currency, so and they're not like led by like cool people like doing these with these cool ideas and yeah.
I kind of want to go on a little rant about gold if you'll
yeah, let's hear it. I would
So if you look back in history, like people were obsessed with gold.
Yeah.
Whole civilizations revolved around gold. The king, all his stuff is covered in gold, and like, it was like basically the obsession for a long time,
Well, why is that?
That's what I'm wondering,
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm getting at here, is that like what made it so valuable, and you can't eat it, it doesn't make very good tools because it's like super malleable.
Yeah.
But if you look today at like modern technology and what gold is used for, it's like a superconductor and like highly valuable and super high tech equipment, like the space shuttle and like smartphones and computers and stuff,
Yeah.
Super valuable. Like nothing can do it as well as gold can do it,
like,
right?
How did they know?
Right? I was like, what is that? You know? So like my dad once upon a time, I forget if he got me into it or I got him into it. It was like ancient alien theory, you know?
Yeah.
And like it's kind of you can kind of connect the dots that like maybe we knew gold's true value once upon a time, or it was taught to us or whatever. And like there was kind of like a mistranslation somewhere where we kind of forgot like why we were obsessed with gold, but we were still obsessed with gold, you know? Kind of
Yeah.
like how people put a Christmas tree in their house and have no idea why they put a Christmas tree in their house.
Yeah.
You know? Like similar thing, you know? I don't know. It's hard to know what's true, but it's an interesting theory, you know?
Yeah. You know that I can get it. Do you believe in aliens?
Yeah, let's get into aliens, man. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think they exist, but right? I think they exist. I don't know if they've existed on this planet before, but it seems like there's there's a lot of just old documented accounts of yeah.
So yeah, I look at it like different ways. So you look at it from like ancient structures and like explaining these ancient structures and these artifacts that we find, like trying to understand like how is this even possible? You know, how is it possible that someone had technology to do this 10,000 years ago or more? You know, so that's a big question mark. You know, but then you look at modern day UFOs and like I don't know if you got into the oh man, what's his name? It's on Netflix right now, and he was on Joe Rogan's podcast too. Bob Lazar.
Okay.
Did it all?
No, I have to check that out.
So basically, like he goes on the record saying, like I worked, and it wasn't Area 51. I think it was called something 4. Doesn't matter. But like he basically goes on the record to say, like they recruited me to like work on reverse engineering these crafts that we had access to. And like everything was compartmentalized, so like no one worked together. And like my specific thing was like the propulsion and like figuring out how the propulsion worked. And dude, it's crazy. It's wild, like the stories he tells. And like, and the thing that I found most interesting was they erased him. Like he came out with all this information, and they basically erased him from like the records. So like if you go back and like his record no longer exists at like MIT or wherever he went to school.
What?
You know? And like
that's crazy.
There and people knew him from there, you know. And like he worked for the company, and there's like a newspaper article of like him like working there, saying that he worked there, you know. And like no, he never worked here, you know. So like
what? That's crazy.
Yeah, Bob Lazar, man, it's pretty wild. Like I watched it with my cousin, and we were like, "What is this?" So like that's today. So like, what are those things? Like these crafts that we're finding, is it like alien? Is it from another planet? Is it some other like species that's here? Is it like just government technology that's like super under wraps? Like, I don't know.
It's hard to say. Yeah. I mean,
going on, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely some crafts like, you know, like I've seen, you know, like photos of stuff, and maybe some of it's doctored or, you know, whatever, but you know, like for sure there's something else out there that exists. And, you know, for sure I can see our civilization in the next thousands of years, if we exist to that point, having some type of like spacecraft, you know, like I can see it being possible for sure. You know, I haven't seen it with my own eyes yet. So,
and I struggle too with like, I don't want to discredit like all of the work that engineers and scientists have done over the last 80 years or so, you know? But it's also possible that like a lot of this technology we're using is reverse engineered alien technology, fiber optics, smartphones, you know?
Oh yeah.
Telecommunications, like all that stuff. It's possible that we kind of built off of that.
Yeah.
You know?
It'd be interesting to do some, you know, I think if you're really like an investigative researcher about like the alien conspiracies, I think you could definitely find some good meaty info between like how were fiber optics invented and like who invented them. And it'd be like it come up with like some bogus like engineer at his house or something that like has no backstory. It's just like planted there by like the government, you know.
Yeah, they like a false narrative. Explain it like when you dig into a narrative, it doesn't really make any sense, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you'd find some of that.
Yeah.
But
And what are they doing here? Like, if they are here, why are they here? Do they live here? Are they here visiting? Are they extracting resources? Do they have like any sort of influence over government? Like, what are they doing? Like, what's the motivation? You know?
yeah, I've always been like convinced deep down that water is our most valuable resource.
For sure.
Yeah, I feel like water, you know, like clean water, you know, like it's just like such an amazing substance, you know, how it, yeah.
Yeah. You're right. It's like, and I've said it, kind of joked, but like not really joking. Like, if you think the wars for oil were bad, wait until you see the wars for water.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I believe that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, like we can purify water and there's methods to do that, but it's expensive, you know, and yeah, you just don't know how that will affect like our environment, you know, like if like we got these big machines that are sucking moisture out of the air, you know, like maybe there's something like that. But you know, does that like just like create some type of like it's like vortex, you know, or
Yeah.
and then the air starts spinning off wonky and then like shoots off to like Pluto.
Yeah. Like, we never really fully know the consequences of our actions, you know, like,
Nah, yeah,
and that's like the constant problem with engineering too. Is like, okay, we're going to draw our box around the problem and like, we're going to solve the problem in the box, but like, you never really fully can address like the things outside the box, you know, like what
right.
happens to all that waste heat you're dumping into the atmosphere. It's like, oh, it turns out it causes climate change. Oh, we probably should have thought about that. And it's like, oh, no,
Well,
we were too focused on like how to run this steam engine or whatever, you know?
yeah, and that's a good point. You know, like maybe just you know, to fight climate change and to get more awareness, you know, it just needs to be more focused on the, you know, the solutions that we're solving and just having an environmental piece in that, you know, like so when we look at like, you know, is the quality good or the cost good? Are we going to be able to deliver it quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to have an impact on the environment? You know, like
Yeah.
I wish there was more like I think even back when we were in school, they were talking about carbon taxes and stuff like that. I wish that had more traction.
Yeah. I remember going to some sort of political, I don't even remember where we were. We were in like the state capitol or what, but I brought up the idea of a carbon tax and everyone kind of laughed at me. And that was like 2010, you know?
Yeah,
And
no, that's a
how different would things be if we had implemented something like that 10 years ago, you know?
yeah. Maybe we could could have just I mean maybe the weather would be like for sure probably it would definitely have an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only reason they're not doing it is like there's too much money in politics, you know?
Right.
It's the right thing to do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And right, that brings it all back to the political piece and what I truly believe, because I think you have to ask yourself, like, what is the role of government, you know? And I think they have lots of different roles, and I think there's reasons to like keep their roles kind of minimal and not asking them to do too much, but also like the things that we are asking them to do a good job with, you know? And I think one of those things is protecting the commons.
Yeah.
Because no business has a direct incentive or no individual has a direct incentive to like protect the commons. And the commons, I mean, clean water, clean air, you know, a healthy environment that we all live on, you know, live in, because we all benefit from that. But like nobody benefits like directly, you know.
No, and nobody polices it, you know, like on a national level.
Yeah.
I mean, well, they do, but like,
yeah, and that's kind of where like someone like Trump went in and, you know, reversed a bunch of the stuff at the EPA. Like, I feel like that's so counterproductive to like what we should be doing. Is there a lot of bureaucracy? Is there a lot of red tape? Yeah, maybe there is, but like that's there to protect us, you know, like like there's a reason that in these areas that burn a lot of coal that they have like higher rates of lung cancer and everything else, you know, because like they're getting that from what they're breathing in, you know, and if we're not like regulating things like the water or the air, like who is going to? You know?
Yeah.
So if you put hurdles in place or like cost barriers in place to like to fund protecting those things, then now you can do that, Something I talked about before too is like when you go around, you walk around the streets wherever you're at, you see litter, you see litter and pollution, but it's always like the same things. It's always like Pepsi bottles and Coke bottles and like Burger King and McDonald's wrappers and Snickers wrappers. It's always like the same set of things,
Yeah.
And I wish we could like put a little extra tax on those companies or those types of goods, like disposable wrappers and cups and stuff. But like even if it was only a penny a piece, and like set that into a fund to like clean those things up, and like the government wouldn't necessarily like run the procedure, but they would be kind of the facilitators of the program to collect the funds and like hire a company to go do the cleaning, bid the work out like they do with other government projects,
Yeah. I mean, it's just a straight up simple environmental tax, like if this bottle has an impact on the environment of a penny, then that, like somebody's gonna have to pay to fix that in the long term. So let's put a tax on it to save away that money.
Yeah.
And take care of that problem.
Yeah. And it would create like jobs too, like not exactly like high skilled jobs, but we still need low skilled jobs for, hire some people to go around and pick up trash and collect litter. And imagine like it's so nice too when you go somewhere that's like a park that's like clean or like a city that's clean. Like I was walking around Salt Lake City, I forget what year that was, 2016. I'm like, wow, this is the cleanest city I've ever been in my whole life. It was like immaculate,
Yeah.
And like you walk around like parts of New York or even like where I'm from in Scranton, it's just like there's trash. It's just like disgusting sort of, and like could I spend my whole day like picking up trash? Yeah, I could, but like there's no like incentive to do that. Like it doesn't benefit me directly, So like everyone has that same thought process. So like how do you prevent that from happening? You gotta put a fund together to deal with it, and then you gotta hire people to clean it up,
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind having cameras on the streets and like finding people based off of their face recognition if they threw a piece of trash on the street. I don't want the cameras around my house, but like at least to keep the streets clean.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's we're getting into the Bourne world or the Jetsons and stuff, like
1984.
Yeah.
It's crazy how correct George Orwell was on a bunch of that stuff. Have you ever read that book in high school?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it makes a lot of sense. And I think like you can still look at the same stuff today and like even more current adaptions. And like, it's pretty clear where we're going,
Yeah. Where are we going?
Just it's like the Jetsons, like we'll be living on spacecrafts up in space somewhere with like robots and, just buzzing around in these little like cars.
Yeah. I like the theory of like not necessarily being replaced by robots, but like merging with them, not that I like it. Like I hope that it happens, but I see it like as a natural progression because like with these phones, man, we're basically like cyborgs with these phones anyway. We have like access to a computer in our pocket at all times, and like it can record stuff so we don't have to memorize it exactly, and like it can look up information and it can do math and it can do a million different things, so like how long until that's built into our being?
Oh yeah, that's gonna happen too. I mean, you just put a little chip, just give me a little memory chip or something, or some type of like, give me like a psychedelic chip in there too. I can like process all like the deep thoughts, Yeah. It's like
Yeah. And I understand why people are like afraid of that because it is kind of scary, especially if like the government can turn off your chip, it's like we don't want that, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, because I think I have a hard time like trusting that the government's doing everything in my best interest. Like seeing that we're burning more coal now. Like that's not in my interest. Like so. It's like what else are they doing that's not? And I think at the end of the day, like if I'm indifferent about it, if it doesn't affect me so much, great. But if not, then I'll just find a cabin somewhere and I'll just go live in the woods.
Yeah. Good life. I don't know if you know, but I went and hiked the Appalachian Trail last year.
Yeah, that looks awesome. That's like a major bucket list. I don't know if I'll ever get there, man, but like
I think you could do it. I think you'd have a great time with it too.
that looks like a lot of fun. Yeah. How
But
was
yeah,
that?
dude, it was amazing, and it's like exactly what we're talking about too. Like the whole time I was out there, I don't think I heard Trump's name like 3 times. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's like the peace that brought to my life of just like not having to worry about, like they were all still going on, like everything was still going on, but like I wasn't constantly bombarded with the information and like feeling like I had to have some opinion about it or like I had to deal with it or argue with someone about it. Like there was really none of that. Like every once in a while you get in a conversation, but for the most part, it was more like philosophical conversation rather than like specifically like political or like about this person or that person, whatever.
This or that. Yeah, yeah. It's for sure. Like right now, I feel like we've got the most communicative, like hyper informed society. You know, like maybe not all over the world. Like maybe not if it's like place like China is restricted or they limit what they get, but like for sure in the States, like having like it's something you'd be trending on Twitter before it's even like a thing, like just from the the social connectedness, but
and on one hand it's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, it kind of creates like unhappiness, I think, a little bit, because
like, for sure.
The reason you want to go to a cabin in the woods is because it's simple. And like with simplicity, happiness comes more easily,
Yeah, for sure. It's like for sure it can be it can be extremely depressing, like just all the it's just if you take the world as it is today and look at it, you can find really bright spots and you can find really dark spots.
Yeah.
And I think people tend to focus on the dark spots more so than the bright spots.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you go on social media, like you'll see a lot of the dark spots. And like you've seen that the guy from The Office, he's doing the Some Good News, where he's starting to kind of just like it's kind of just like a funny
yes.
Not Steve Carell, it's the guy. It's the with like kind of longer hair.
Jim or whatever.
Jim, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know his like real name, but he's doing like
Krasinski.
Is that his actual name?
I think that's his last name, Krasinski.
Krasinski, yeah.
Anyway, some good news.
So he's doing like this news channel, and it's just like Some Good News, and yeah, I mean it's just like if the news flipped and it wasn't all like this political leader said this or like this and that, like if it was just all good news, like would you still crave some bad news, just to like kind of feel better that like things are going so well, or like and it's just interesting how people's perspectives and like the dynamic of like what people want to hear, it just seems like pretty negative, but
yeah,
I think and just because there's so much out there, like.
And I think we're guilty sometimes of doing that on an individual level too, where like, you evaluate yourself as a person and you have like this subset of like negative characteristics, like down here in the corner. And then you have like this other subset of like your best, most positive characteristics. And like, it's easy to kind of focus on one or the other sometimes and like get overwhelmed by that or like, but really you kind of just got to chip away at both, it's like, how do we make these bad sections not as bad? And how do we like use these good sections to like benefit our lives and benefit those around us and like,
Yeah. And then also like recognizing like for the bad sections too, like, okay, yeah, like those are some of the bad traits or bad characteristics, but that's not like what fully defines me,
Right.
So like you can still look at it in a positive light and know like, there's things that you could do that, could just, you can add it up or.
Yeah. And that reminds me of the concept of like cumulative truth. And that's something that I got into from studying the work of Dr. Jordan Peterson. Do you know Dr. Jordan Peterson at all?
Sounds familiar. What's
He's like a clinical psychologist. He does a lot of lecture series and stuff. He did like lectures on like biblical lectures and stuff. And he was actually like kind of catapulted into the spotlight due to like his coming out against like these pronoun bill, like in Canada, Bill C-16, where it was like basically mandating the use of preferred pronouns, and he kind of came out against it and was like brought in the spotlight for that. And it's like kind of, I don't want to say ironic, but it's like almost nothing from like what I've gained from studying his work has anything to do with pronouns or like gender identity at all, you know? But that's kind of how he went from just like a professor at the University of Toronto to like somebody who's known, you know?
Like recognition. Yeah.
Anyway, something I learned from him is like cumulative truth, you know? So like, for example, if somebody says that I'm an asshole, like, maybe they're right. Like, maybe like
there's probably a bit of truth in that.
Right. But that's not all that I am. You know, I'm so much more than just an asshole. You know, I'm actually like a good guy too. And like, other things.
That's just like a little pebble.
Right. So it's weird because you can have things that are contradictory and both be true. You know?
Makes sense.
Like duality, like light being a particle and a wave. You know, it's like you would think that it's impossible for it to be both, but no, it is both. So like explain that, you know, and that's like the same thing with anything, you know?
Yeah.
So like, you have to care about individuals. Oh, no, we all have to care about the societal. And it's like both are true and they're both sometimes competing. So like how do we account for that, and how do we make policy that accounts for that, you know?
That's a really that makes everything just like blow up in complexity. Like just because it just is such a like so much room for dynamics in all of that, you know, like
and it's, you can do it with anything too, like your hat that you're wearing right now. There's no way that I could ever describe your hat in a way that fully encompasses your hat. I could spend my whole life like talking shisha. What is that? Is that is it like a weed brand or something?
No, it's actually I think it's a Japanese like, you know, there's they're kind of like, they sit at your door. It's like a protector of the good, like it allows good spirits in. Yeah.
What is it? Was it a tiger or something? Show me that again.
Yeah, it's kind of like something like a tiger, a lion, or something like that, you know.
A dragon, maybe even.
But like, you know, people will put there's like statues outside of their front door, and they're kind of like guardians in a way. Yeah.
Off the evil spirits or something. Yeah.
But I think it's only to let the good ones in. So it's not yeah. But no, my brother got it for me like a long time ago. He was stationed in Japan at one point. Got me this hat, and yeah, I dig it. So
see, that's what I mean. Like it's so layered. Like it's not just a green hat that you're wearing. It has this symbol that's like part of this culture for letting in good spirits, but it also connects with your brother and like his time serving overseas or whatever. And it's just like
nothing simple.
Bottom. The deeper you dig, the more you kind of uncover. You know?
Yeah. There's a ton of men. Yeah. That's why, you know, like with all the politics and everything going on, like I try not to get hold on 1 sec. Just call this off. Yeah, try not to get too overwhelmed with it, just because, you know, there are so many layers, and like it's just what you choose.
What about politics these days drives you crazy the most, do you think? Like, what is it that you're just like?
You know, like I think we share a really similar frustration with politics these days, and it's just that certain leaders continue to have influence when it's so clear that they're out of line in so many ways, and that, you know, like that people continue to follow them, and you know, that there's not a lot to do to change these people's minds, you know, like, and like there are ways, but it just requires you know, getting in front of them somehow and having them listen, you know, which is, you know, it's a hard problem to solve. But I think that's my biggest frustration with politics, is just that people, you know, will continue to support something that's wrong, you know, that I believe is wrong, and maybe, you know, like they believe it's right, and that's you know, that's in their right to to have that opinion. So
yeah, where they just like kind of double down. It's like this. It's for me. It's like this combination of ignorance and arrogance. You know, it's like we're all ignorant. Like we're allowed to be ignorant to some extent because the world is like pretty complex and you can never fully understand everything. You know, so
yeah,
that's like excusable. You know, but like when you pair that ignorance with arrogance, it's dangerous. You know, it's like it's really bad to win when you're wrong. You know, like that's one of the things that we could do to ourselves. You know.
yeah, yeah, and you know, you've talked about like ways to prevent that and like systems and like, yeah, I think that, you know, there should be like some basic test that you have to, you know, you have to go through in order to vote. You know, like you have to just do a 5 minute like survey and it'll determine, you know, whether or not your vote gets counted based off of like, you know, if you understand where society's at and like where government is wanting to take your vote, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but I don't know, it just seems like too much to ask or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think there's two things that come to mind that kind of work against that. It's like one, people who care about like not disenfranchising people or like creating undue barriers that are too large to overcome in order to participate in democracy. There's people who like want to prevent that from happening because the less fortunate, it's more difficult for them to overcome those barriers. You know, I think there's some truth to that argument. You know, and then there's I think the nefarious side of it, which is like we don't want to only allow educated people to vote because then we can't trick people as easily. You know, we can't persuade the masses so easily because it's easier to do it with people who don't know what the hell's going on and like get them to vote with their emotions rather than like their intellect or their understanding, you know? So
right.
Both those sides kind of interfere. And I was doing some research on this topic of like democracy as a birthright. And it turns out like Socrates was like against that. It was like one of the things that like as part of his philosophy, he's like, I don't think democracy should be a birthright. I think it should be something you have to earn, you know? And I think there's truth to it, you know?
Yeah. And I think a big problem is like when people look at the situation, they oftentimes either fail to see like the long term repercussions, or just that they choose not to, you know, like they choose because, you know, like either, you know, you can be like arrogant and selfish and only care about yourself as an individual, you know, and like I don't care if I pollute the 100 tons out into the environment. I'm going to be dead when I'm 60, and by that time, you know, like whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're looking like for the long term, and a lot of people, you know, if they're looking at the long term, they might still not be able to understand, you know, if I do this today, that does this in the long term, like, you know, like what the actual repercussions are.
Yeah, it's so short-sighted, and I wish people could see. Like, if you applied it to like biology, could you imagine a tree making that decision? Like, I'm not going to bother making seeds because I'm going to focus on growing so I can get more sunlight for myself, so I can be the tallest tree in the forest. And I'm not going to make any seeds because that's who cares about the future. It's like they'll never have another tree ever again. There won't be any trees if everyone's
it's just
attitude.
the whole earth will burn up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But I mean, you see, like it's like right now, it's like it's almost like everybody's just focused on, and I think like one of the big things that Trump was running on was saying like make it great again, you know, and it's kind of like, you know, like back to like the 70s or, you know, like the post-industrial age where everything was like booming and had really been prosperous.
right.
And yeah, like I don't know, like that's just such a catering to like I feel like there's so many psychological tricks that politicians and, you know, they use to like it's just so manipulative, you know, like how he's doing that. And like yeah, so there's like two sides. Like one, you should be able to have enough of a understanding of it to be able to place a vote, but two, like you shouldn't be able to manipulate your message and try to like trick people rather than influence them to like do the good thing,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of tricks in politics,
And I kind of went down the rabbit hole of like comparing the whole Make America Great Again and like the MAGA ethos with like the Nazi ethos. And they're from the same cloth. Like if you look at what happened to Germany post World War I and like the struggles that they went through and like the sanctions that were levied against them, combined with like the Great Depression and the stock market crash,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like Hitler comes to power in 1933, promising basically to make Germany great again, and that the lying press, aka the fake news, and like don't believe any of that. We're gonna restore our country's pride and like Germany first, America first. It's like it's all on the same emotions and like uniting people on a basis of like ethno-nationalism, aka like white American power. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I would point that out to people and they'd be like, I can't believe you're gonna call me a Nazi or like Trump a Nazi. I'm like, I'm not saying that you are a Nazi, like the Nazi party. I'm saying that you're like doing the same thing. You're walking in the same path as these people walked. And like, yeah, sure. Like if you look at like the economic growth of Germany from like 1933 to like 1938, they were booming like 10% a year growth every year, growth over, every single year,
Sure.
So if you're in that country at that time, like why would you put out of power?
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything yet. Like they haven't invaded Poland yet. They haven't like killed anybody yet. I mean, yeah, sure, they've done certain things to the Jews, but like if you're living there, you didn't like the Jews anyway. You were looking for somebody to blame for all your problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he gives you like he gives you what you want, which is somebody to blame.
Yeah.
And again, if you were in that time, you went from, I forget what the numbers were. There was like 5 million or like 10 million or something like that. People that went from being unemployed to being employed, know? So like if I'm there and you got me a job now that pays the bills and my wife can stay home with the family and like you're making Germany great again, like why are we going to change this?
Yeah.
And ride this thing out, And like, look how that turned out. Terrible. One of the worst things that ever happened in human history.
I know. Yeah. There's a lot of similarities in it. It's crazy you point them out because, like, I totally see that too. And like someone had made a comment the other day about like following, like not supporting Trump, like, and he's like, he's your president, and I'm just like, yeah, I understand he's the president of the United States, but like he's not my leader, like I don't have to support him as the president, like I understand like he's a president, like
right.
I can't shoot the president or any other person, like can't shoot anybody,
right.
Shooting people is bad. but it's that blind leadership like that, like support your president no matter what, and like times are good, we all got jobs, man. Why wouldn't you support him? Like it's just but that kind of argument like just falls flat with me, it's like
totally.
Yeah, it's and I think, it's like there has to be some type of barrier to vote and to, you have to kind of show that you understand that, like, oh, what's really interesting. So the people, someone's argued with me too, talking about the people, the economy and like having people stay at home or closing down on essential businesses. And and I remember doing like some exercise one time in school where we were looking at the cost of a human life, and like what is the cost of a human life.
I remember this too. Yeah, go on.
I think it was like one of the EBF classes, and with I forget who the instructor was, but and so they were talking about like, oh, like these people died, but like think about how many people are out of work right now. And it's like, yeah, well, if one of these people is one of those working people, now they're not only going to not go back to work, this year, they're not going to go back to work for the rest of their lives.
Right.
So even if you just value them at their pure economic value, like not like not putting anything beyond like what they're worth in economic terms, you know, like over the course of their life, they're worth a pretty fair amount of, you know, so like over the long term. But like if you look at that short term, like just the window, just the, you know, of yesterday, like what it was yesterday, let's get back to there. So let's all go back to work.
Yeah.
And that'll make America great again.
Yeah.
You know, but like, oh shoot, we just lost like tens of thousands of people who are going to produce tens and thousands of more people. And like that economic impact of all those people is, you know, like that's what we're throwing away. If we
the chain reaction, like where we started this conversation with, like the chain reaction you had on my life that led to me having impacts on other people's lives. It's the same idea, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
chain reaction. Yeah.
If you made the decision that day that like, yeah, I could go to this meeting and like promote this, but like it's better for me right now to like study for my test or like do this other thing or like watch this TV show or whatever, you know? And like you would have never had that impact on, you would never have instituted that chain reaction, you know?
Yeah. And it's like crazy how many times in the day that you have the opportunity to make a decision. You know, it's like every second there's like multiple like decisions that you're making. Yeah. And every single decision is based off of so many different factors, you know? It's like the complexity of the human mind and just like what we have the abilities to do and like process things is crazy. Yeah. But it's like how, you know, it's like at every single decision point, you know, you can either make the right decision or the wrong decision, and even if it's or a better and a worse decision, and the better decision can always lead into another better and a worse decision, and the worst decision can also lead into a better and worse decision. And at some point, you know, you might go back and forth and like, you know, just depending on all these little tiny decisions that you're making throughout the day and like throughout your life, you know. But it's like I guess the frustrating with Trump, it's like you see all these decisions being made that are going the wrong direction, and it's like collectively it seems like a net negative, you know. But it's like, well, we still got our guns. We still got
our jobs.
Yeah, well,
right, and even those we don't have anymore, you know.
Yeah, so who do we blame for that? Yeah, not the leader of the country, that's for sure.
Yeah. And something that I think is going to get played over and over and over again when the election gets a little closer is Biden criticized Trump in some of his early actions that he took against the coronavirus pandemic, you know? So like basically what they're going to say is that Biden would have done worse. Therefore, any criticisms against Trump regarding the coronavirus are basically void. Like they're not relevant, you know? And that's going to they're going to bang that drum 150 times from October to early November, you know? And to a certain extent, it's a hard argument. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I like Biden so much, to be honest, but
dude, I don't know a single person who likes Joe Biden. Not one person.
I don't know how that happened. It's just like, yeah. But you know what? Best case scenario, Biden has Bernie as his running mate, and then year one into presidency, impeached. Bernie becomes president, runs another 8 years on top of that.
Yeah. I think the only way that Biden can win, in my opinion, is if he nominates Bernie as his running mate.
Yeah, or like Elizabeth Warren, maybe, because then I feel like that's like a really killer combo too, you know. So like, it's not the worst case that, you know, if Biden becomes president, as long as he's got good, you know, just to keep him honest and not fighting for like oil and stuff. Yeah,
it's pretty frustrating, the choices we ended up with, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I was pretty frustrated this last election too, but you know, it's like it's like the options are never great.
Yeah.
So it's just like making the best decision, based off of what you got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
And that leads me back to like the whole theme of this podcast too, is like, I'd like to see some changes to prevent us from getting in this situation,
Yeah.
For example, like ranked choice voting. Are you familiar with ranked choice voting?
No, what's that?
So basically, you rank your choices. So
Okay. Mm-hmm.
if like 10 different people are eligible based off of certain criteria to be elected president, once it gets time for the election, everybody votes and everybody ranks all 10 of them from
So
top
it
to
puts a
bottom.
weight.
Yes. Well, not maybe. I'm not sure if it would be weighted if you're doing it like on an engineering problem, for example. But instead, in this case, like you wouldn't have the case where you have like a quote unquote wasted vote. We're like, oh, I'm going to write in Bernie Sanders as protest, and that's basically you're wasting your vote because he's not going to win probably because he's not one of these top, the main two parties. So it's kind of like waste. But instead, if like I listed Bernie as my first choice and Elizabeth Warren as my second choice, and maybe somewhere down here Biden as like my eighth choice, So then when it comes to the election, like you take the top vote getters, and then you kind of set them aside, and then you kind of look at everybody else's votes and you see like where they rank, like who ranked who higher, and then you assign their vote to that person. So you physically can't waste your vote that way, but you can still vote for your favorite choice.
Yeah.
So and it helps too with like running campaigns because like let's say you and I were running for the same position, mayor of Oceanside, California, and our platforms were 95% aligned. We could actually run like a joint campaign together. We could say like, come November, really vote.
Yeah.
But I would also appreciate you listing Paul DeVito as your second choice because he and I are aligned on these various issues. And you would basically say the exact same thing. Like, I'd appreciate your vote.
I mean, it's basically would put out all this stuff, that is important. And
Mm-hmm. And it would also help to focus on the things that people have in common rather than like the things that make us different,
Yeah, the whole campaigning and like how much money to spend on that drives me crazy too.
Yeah, crazy.
It's like
it's out of control, and we had to fix that too because basically corporations control the elections the way it's set up.
They pay for it.
Yeah. They made it so our choices are limited to these two guys, and they're going to kind of win either way at this point. They've already won the election basically by.
Why don't they just do like a TV news channel or something that's run by the government, and it's like an NPR or something like that, and they can always host like just candidates or nominees, and they can go on and I don't know.
Yeah.
Because if it's something that you're interested in and want to like, if you're just getting an ad on Fox News and you're on Fox News and an ad comes on and it says like, like go vote in the election, like I feel like that's manipulative, like how it like, you can't be running a campaign like an ad, like an ad is for a consumer and it's meant to trick you to buy something.
Right.
It's like, and we're running all these ads, like making you trick people into voting for Trump or whatever.
Right. And like in ads, you're not allowed to have like false advertising. It's like illegal, right? But you also don't have to give all the information. Like when they show like a Coca-Cola commercial, they don't tell you that like, oh, actually, like if you drink a lot of Coca-Cola, your teeth are going to rot and you're probably going to end up with diabetes and cardiovascular disease and everything else, Like they don't tell you that. They just show you like the fizzle,
it's sweet.
bubble. Yeah, and everyone's
it's like, oh man, if they started doing that with in the government where they had to like disclose everything, like a medicine, like they have to disclose everything at the end.
Right. The what do they call that? Like the fine print, but like when they say really
it's like, oh you could get severe diarrhea. Like 90% of people get severe diarrhea and vomiting and And yeah, it could go both ways, but give it a try.
Yeah, they need some of that at the end of like the Trump commercials.
Yeah, that'd be funny. That'd be a funny if one of the running against him like did some like medical thing with like.
I'm surprised that's not like an SNL skit. Yeah, they're probably going to steal this idea and have it on SNL next week.
That would make me happy. I'd love to see that.
Me too.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And then the whole back to like the MAGA ethos, make America great again. Like, first of all, when the fuck was it great? Someone want to show me when it was great? Like, what do you mean? Back when like you weren't allowed to be gay? Like, was it great then? Like, women were allowed to vote? Was it great then? Or like when black people were getting beat in the streets or enslaved? Was it great then? You know, like when was it great?
I think he's talking about right about the time when he inherited all the money from his dad. Right there is the time. That was the great time.
Well, from his like little worldview where it's like only he thinks about himself, he's probably right. That probably was a pretty great time.
I think that's where he's reflecting back on.
Yeah. You're right. It's hard to argue.
Yeah.
Man. Crazy.
But yeah. I don't know. I'm hopeful that in the long term of things, you know, like people will start to see like what's better for, and you know, I think like America is like the only place right now that doesn't have the universal health care. Like first world countries, you know, like, and you look at like other places like Norway and Greenland and some of the like they're on the happy index, right? So these are some of the happiest countries in the world that are also paying the most taxes. Mm-hmm. But they live in like these communities, you know, where they're very supportive communities and like everybody takes care of everybody. It's a very like compassionate like way to live, you know?
Yeah.
And you wonder like, okay, so what if America became this place where we started to have these universal benefits and, you know, higher taxes? Would all the wealthy just be driven out of the country and, you know, go to live somewhere where they can keep more of what they're earning? Or will they stay and support, you know, this new kind of way of, you know, this new structure?
Yeah. I think a lot about how humans evolved when I look at these systems, and especially if you look at like pre-agricultural revolution, you know, when we were hunter-gatherers. You know?
Oh yeah, I love to take it back to that because I feel like that's the most basic human nature is back to that time.
Yeah,
I love comparing to the hunter gatherer.
So if you look at like the people back then who were doing the hunting and the gathering, like in a sense, you can say they had a high tax because like let's say you and I went out and we hunted and we got an animal and we brought it back. Well, like you and I didn't get to eat the whole animal.
Yeah, you get maybe 10%.
Yeah, we shared the animal with the community because
that was your role,
you know? Yeah, that's our role. And you know, if we were out hunting and like you suffered a severe injury, you know, well, we brought you back and we had like the tribe medicine man to like help you, like get you back on your feet, you know, and we didn't like bankrupt you for having to go see the medicine man, you know. Really, we didn't take your little tent and burn it to the ground if you couldn't pay the man, you know. We didn't punish you for getting injured. Like we did our best to like get you back out there to like restart contributing to the community again, you know. And if it went for like a month where nobody got injured and everybody was like healthy and happy, like the medicine man still got to eat too, you know. We just say like, oh, because you're not working right now, like you don't get to participate. It's like it didn't work that way, you know. Like we rose to this dominant species on the planet by being communal, you know, and taking care of each other, you know. And there was a good deal of competition too. Like, you know, if you were the best hunter, then you know, there are certain benefits for that, you know. So you can't completely eliminate like the desire to like succeed and be the best, you know. That's important too, you know. But on the other hand, you have to like realize that like the children and the elderly and the women and everyone's an important part of this puzzle, you know.
Yeah.
Not just you because you brought home the animal today, you know.
Yeah. And I think we're, you know, it's kind of, you can look at that kind of structure where everyone has a role in the society, and everybody has something that they're doing to contribute and to, to keep everything moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, what happens if the hunter breaks his leg and his arm, and will never be able to hunt again, or something like that. Like, in that society, would they just say, okay, like, he's not useful, he's never going to be useful, he's only going to cost us resources, let's eliminate him? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know like what would happen in that scenario where, like, say you got like the medicine man, and the medicine man like loses his ability to see and hear or something like that, like because of some explosion, like, and he can no longer practice medicine or do anything, but he can still consume and survive, but
Mm-hmm.
like, can he contribute? And like, what would happen in those scenarios? Because like, even in our society today, like, there's a lot of people who are not able to contribute for whatever reason, or might be more of a weight on society than contributed towards it. So,
Right.
and I guess that's when real like compassion comes into play, where it's like, okay, well, like, yeah, we'll keep feeding this person because they'll come back and over the long term be a better, more of a benefit over the long term.
Mm-hmm.
But at what point do you cut your loss? And because I think that's where I struggle with personally, is like, if I'm looking at society as a whole, like, yeah, I want to be a very communal society, but I don't want people just tagging along who are just dead weight.
Exactly. And it comes back to the balance thing too. It's like, maybe it's not compassionate to send that person that can't contribute out to die. Maybe that's not compassionate. But it's also not compassionate to have so many of those people that are dead weight that like your society can't survive anymore because there's too much dead weight holding it back.
Yeah,
so,
I guess, like, yeah. And maybe there's a reason why they can't, like, maybe if there becomes enough of them, then you look at that group and you say, okay, like, is there anything that group can do? Like, or is it because there's like a physical handicap or a mental handicap or something that, is just preventing them to be able to do, what is a normal job in society. And maybe it's something abnormal, like maybe the job that they could provide value in is just something we haven't even considered or looked at, like, but yeah, I think
more, but maybe they can like teach hunting. Maybe
yeah,
there's wisdom that they can pass on,
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's things. And it's like, I think it's just, I think it's going to be important if we ever get to that, like, as our in the United States, if we ever get to a point of like unity and communism, communism, or what's the word? No, not like that, but yeah, to where it's like, we can, yeah.
Yeah. And I think we're going to be sort of dealing with that as you have the boomer population getting older. It's like, I don't want to say that they're dead weight exactly, but they're certainly not part of the main economy anymore as they're in their 70s and beyond that,
Yeah.
So like, how do we deal with that? How do we have enough resources to make sure that they have what they need, it's not like we're going to send them out to pasture to die. That's not really where we're at,
Maybe send them on a space trial. Like, yeah. If you guys can survive up there, then anybody can survive up there.
Yeah. How long till we're living on the moon, you think?
Till we actually have people living on the moon?
Yeah, like first person born on the moon.
Oh, first person born on the moon. Okay, that's a good way to look at it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 20 years.
Wow, you think so? I'm taking the over on that. I'm saying
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like, I think we're really, really close to starting to like form like bases and colonies up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, like, how long until somebody's up there and, doing, some couple people fall in love up on the moon and, conceive a baby, like, once we're civilized up there, then it's just a time clock,
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of Musk too. Elon Musk and the plans to go to Mars and stuff. Have you read The Martian? The book The Martian?
I don't think I've read that one.
I think you'd probably really like it. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'll have to take this. There's The Martian and also
Andy Weir is the author, I believe. Weir, I think. The Martian.
okay. Who was the one? Who was?
Oh, Jordan Peterson.
It was on the like on the Area 51 stuff.
Oh, Bob Lazar.
Lazar, Lazar.
Yeah, definitely check out that Netflix documentary. I think it's called UFOs, Flying Saucers, and Bob Lazar, or some arrangement of that combination.
Well, I got some good stuff. I thought I finished Netflix the other day, but I guess there's still stuff coming out.
Yeah, there's so much content out there, but like right now, where everyone's burning through it.
Yeah, and they're probably going to get at a point to where they're not going to have anything new because, it's like you see the Daily Show and like Saturday Night Live, even like they're quarantined, and for the past 3 months, just nothing's been progressing in that world.
Yeah,
it's gonna get so boring. What are we gonna do? Play cards?
Board games.
Yeah,
it's so hard because like everyone's remote. I've been playing chess. Play chess.
You play some chess? Yeah.
We should play. I play on the chess.com app, and I have a board here too that we play sometimes in person. But
on chess.com, yeah, a lot of the stuff you can play online too. Yeah,
it's a good game.
Yeah.
Oh man, what else? What else do we have here? So you told me that you're got into the marijuana growth industry a little bit too. Tell me about that. Is it like a hobby, like something you're doing for money, or what's going on with that?
Yeah. So, well, when I moved out here in California, it was like one of the first places I was looking at. I was apartment hunting and looked at this one apartment, and through the bedroom window, I saw like these stalks of weed, in the neighbor's back garden through the window. So like, I could see the neighbor's backyard, and I saw these weed, and it was just like, and it seemed like I could smell weed everywhere that I walked outside in California. Like I felt like the scent was always in the air.
Yeah.
And like recently, California legalized, the medicinal use and then recreational use. So I started growing a little bit and just growing like kind of for the house, so like I run an Airbnb here. And I've had, just a lot of people come through and, like I offer like Casa Kush at Casa DeVito.
That's awesome.
It's just house weed. It's just like out, if anybody wants to enjoy like that side of California.
That's pretty cool. And how did you get to the Airbnb thing too? Like you just had an extra space there or something, or?
Yeah. So when I first moved out, I first lived in this apartment. It was just a really tiny 1-bedroom apartment, be like 400 square feet. And the company that moved me out, the TE, they put me up in that place because it was just supposed to be like a temporary, like maximum 2-year thing where I was going to be supporting their integration of this new system, SAP.
Yeah.
So, so I was living in there for, a few years. And while I was living there, I started doing couch surfing. So I was hosting people, to come stay in my apartment. It was just like a tiny 1-bedroom. So like, it was basically just like one room had a bed, filled up the whole room. The other room had a couch, filled up the whole room. And then there was like a small kitchen area.
Yeah.
But, I was hosting people on my couch to come stay on this couch surfing app. And the concept with that is like, it's a pay it forward kind of model where, if I'm hosting people on my couch, then when I'm traveling, I've got some, good,
totally
good karma or good, goodwill or whatever to go. And, so I was doing that. And I think through that, I found out about Airbnb. So like I'd done couch surfing for a while, and then I found out about Airbnb. Once I found out about Airbnb, I started listing my bedroom, and I would sleep on the couch. So I'd list a bedroom and Airbnb out the bedroom in that 1-bedroom apartment and sleep on the couch if somebody booked it. And, it was like more than covering my rent. So I found out this like great tool to like not have to pay rent in California,
Yeah.
so I was doing that. And then, I was like, all right, like some guy actually came along and he's like, hey, I'll pay you this amount of money per month for rent. But I want to, through Airbnb, he found me. He's like, I want to rent it for like 6 months. It was some like Russian, like CTO that was over here working. He's like a executive and he wanted a place close to the beach. I was right at the beach, so it was like a good spot.
Nice.
So I made an arrangement with him for like 6 months. He was paying me $200 extra a month on top of my rent. So like I was just subleasing to him, but I was earning money on the lease, on the sublease. And I was like, all right, I got to find a bigger place, try to find more bedrooms and I can like expand this Airbnb idea. So I was looking and found, it's a lot of like messaging landlords on Craigslist and being like, hey, like, this is what I want to do. Would you allow it? And finally I found one that was cool with it. And it was like a 2-bedroom place with like a smaller third like storage room, but that became like an extra room. And then I also had like a couch there that I was renting for $30 a night. And then the 2 bedrooms and like, again, more than covering my rent, I was earning money on it. So now I was had like 2 places. And then while I was at that next place, I found the house that I'm in now. And, just continued doing Airbnb. Like as soon as I moved into the place, I had like the garage listed as like, I threw a bed in the garage, and like listed that for like $30 a night.
Yeah.
And just like, just trying to get everything like flowing,
Yeah.
And, yeah, so like started with that 1-bedroom apartment, then eventually that lease ran up. I got out of there and then, I got out of the other one and now I'm just at this house, but still kind of doing the Airbnb thing.
Nice.
But I also do like normal tenants too. So like somebody might like move in here through Airbnb, stay for a couple weeks, but they're like moving out to Oceanside. So they want a place for like, long term, but just kind of feeling it out.
Yep.
So I could get some of that too. But yeah.
I saw an article or something recently when all this coronavirus stuff happened that like these people who run like multiple Airbnbs, like they rent out the apartment, but they use it as B and they have like a bunch of them. And then like, everyone cancels their Airbnbs when this like coronavirus thing hits. Yeah. And like the whole business model just came completely crashing down on their heads.
Yeah.
Like, no way they're going to be able to pay these rents like across all these different apartments in like New York or wherever I think it was New York City. And it's like,
So I've been fortunate because like I have like a handful of just like one of the guys here, he's from Canada, but he's first stayed with me through Airbnb, but he'll come down here like, for several months at a time. But like he's staying here now and then there's a few other long-term guys. Only one of the rooms right now would have been like listed on Airbnb, but I've blocked it off because I was actually like right when everything was getting locked down, I got a booking from somebody up in Seattle area. They were from up there, and I was like, and then I saw the news, and I was like, oh shoot, like Bellingham, that's like right in the hot spot. So I messaged him. I was like, hey guys, like sorry, like I'm just reading where you're from and stuff, and like with everything that's going on, like would you be able to cancel? And like the guy's like, oh no, I'm in San Diego. So I was like, oh okay, like San Diego, like whatever, like they were looking for a place. So I figured, okay, like maybe they so I ended up letting the guy come and he ended up not coming with his girlfriend because she was sketched out about the whole virus thing. So and he ended up cutting his stay short because like they decided like, oh, okay, like we'll try another time, now it's just not the time.
Yeah.
So I ended up like cutting his reservation short and then it's just been blocked since then. But like, yeah, I've already seen like in the Oceanside, there's some places for sale now that are clear like vacation rental places and like, all the vacation rental stuff is just that, you're missing on 3 months, like for right now. So you got to make sure you have a rainy day fund in order to get through that. But
yeah, man. Yeah.
So I don't know if it could be if good time to buy a house in like maybe a few months. You'll find all these all these vacation rental properties pop on the market. Like people will start to go under on them. So
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'd love to be able to buy a house here at some point in the future, but I don't know where or how or what. But it
in
would
the
be
meantime, you can do Airbnb and just not have to pay rent. And maybe make some money on top of it.
yeah,
And you meet a lot of cool people doing it too.
yeah.
Like I've had probably like over 40 countries,
Wow,
different countries that I've hosted. Yeah, so
cool, man.
yeah, you get to meet a lot of interesting people.
Yeah, hopefully I can land a gig out in SoCal here in the near future, and who knows, maybe I can come stay at your Airbnb.
Yeah, I definitely set you up for a little bit, and then yeah, I'd get you kicked off. I think, dude, I think you would love the Airbnb thing. Honestly, I feel like that's right up your alley.
Totally, definitely.
And it's really not a lot of time and effort, like
Yeah,
there's a little bit of like, turning the room over, like just basically making the bed and, cleaning the sheets and stuff,
sure.
some laundry stuff.
You
But
do all that, or do you hire somebody to help you with all that stuff?
um so it just depends. Like if I can do it, I will. Like if I'm around, if I'm like traveling or something, I'll
Yeah,
you want to have at least like one good cleaner that's coming, so if you get a 2 or 3 bedroom place and you're just staying in one bedroom and you're renting out 2 bedrooms,
yeah,
you might be earning enough on those 2 bedrooms to cover your rent and hire like somebody to come and deep clean every 2 weeks,
yeah,
and then just have that cleaner like on call when you need them, kind of thing.
yeah.
But I mean, there's not a lot going on. Like, you want to make sure you got a maintenance guy lined up, and like there's not a lot going on though. I mean, it's just,
Like a mini landlord sort of.
yeah, you maybe spend like, if you're doing like two rooms in a 3 bedroom apartment, you maybe spend like 10 hours a week kind of managing, just
Mhm.
messaging people or cleaner or whatever. Yeah.
Most people probably run on weekends too, I would guess.
Yeah. And actually, you know what? I think my prices have always been so low that I always am pretty full.
Yeah,
So I'm always priced like on the bottom end,
yeah,
and I tend to get everything booked up. So depends on where you price yourself, and it's just there's some like market stuff, but like at the end of the day, like, yeah, you're really not spending a whole lot of time like actually doing stuff. You get a big benefit being able to write off like cleaning supplies and stuff like that. And yeah, there's almost always somebody around who's like interested in the area for whatever reason. They're traveling or they're there for work, doing something interesting, or school. Like
yeah.
there's always, yeah,
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to get into that.
yeah.
Oh man. Anything else? You got any questions for me? We're almost at 2 hours here.
Yeah, I'd love to catch up more about where you're at, and maybe we can just chat again some other time,
Yeah, sure.
and
Sounds
figure out when you're planning on coming out to California.
I'm
And
trying to make it happen, man. I'm trying. I want to get back
yeah,
out because I had like a really good job and like a great setup and everything was going great. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go hike. I'm gonna leave all this and go hike the Appalachian Trail. So now here I am, like a year later or more, and like trying to get back into it and get back to where I was and doing something similar to what I was doing. So it was totally worth it though. Like, it's like,
yeah. How many times? How many times? I mean, you really don't ever get that opportunity. You have to make it for yourself. So
yeah. And it was one of those things too, where like the longer I waited, it was gonna be more difficult. You know,
mhm.
the more I was getting paid and the more responsibility and the more I got closer to like having a family or owning a house. Like once you have those things, it's like, forget it. You're not gonna be able to do it. You
Yeah,
know?
you're gonna take a baby on the Appalachian Trail.
No, you're not.
Yeah,
I just felt like now's the time. Like I got the itch. Like sure, I'm giving stuff up, but it's probably less than I would have to give up if I did this like 5 years later.
yeah.
And I'm
I
glad
mean, in the grand scheme of things, yeah.
if I waited till this year, I wouldn't have been able to do it because they basically asked everybody to stop hiking because of the.
Yeah.
So, it's all for
Yeah, man.
the best, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's my brothers always wanted to do that too. And I have too. And
You guys
yeah.
should get together. You probably would love it.
Well, I feel like I'm too tied down now though. Like,
Oh,
but I don't know. it's like, you know, you get a small win, like really, you don't get a lot of opportunity. You can make it happen, you know, I think in any situation though, but
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
One of my favorite quotes, and we can probably end with this, is you can have it all, but you can't have it all at once.
Yeah.
You know?
That's good. That's good, man. Yeah.
Everything you do is not doing something else, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm sure that we have everything that we need, at least in our first world economy here, you know, like might be some first world problem struggles, you know, in this
right.
near term, but yeah, long term, it's
Yeah.
gonna be pretty wild to see where we go.
Yeah, and as tough as it is right now, it's like way tougher for other people who are like really dealing with themselves or their family members having health problems with this, or like being out of work and not having money. Like I'm glad I don't have any of those problems right now, you know, so it's
We're
not so
not having running water, we're like, you know, whatever.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like reliable access to food and energy and all that stuff. We're very fortunate. You know?
Yeah, we're gonna be all right. We'll be all right.
We'll be all right. Oh, my man, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's great talking to you. Yeah, we'll talk to you later.
Keep in touch, all right? Take care of
For
yourself.
sure.
Peace
You
out,
too,
brother.
man. Peace out.